Good afternoon, everyone. This is Pawan, Placement Officer from KCG College of Technology, here to welcome everyone for the webinar. Let me take give a formal introduction about Shyam. Shyam Sundar Ramaswami is a TEDx speaker, Black Hat speaker, and a GREM certified malware analyst. CISCO Security Ninja Black Belt, and teaches cybersecurity using Batman and Avenger characters. Shyam heads the Threat Research Group for Asia Pacific and is a lead threat researcher in CISCO. Shyam has delivered talks in several conferences and universities like Black Hat in Las Vegas, Stanford University Cybersecurity Program, Qubit Forensics in Serbia, Nalcon 2020 in Goa, CISCO Live in Barcelona, iRespond in San Francisco, Defon Packet Village, and in several IEEE forums in India. Shyam also teaches cybersecurity, advanced malware attack and defenses in Stanford Cybersecurity Program, and runs a mentoring program called Being Robin, where he mentors students all over the globe on cybersecurity. This is a short introduction about Shyam. Before giving over the session to Shyam, I would like to give you two instructions. One, if you have any Q&A, as and when you have, please post it up in the Q&A section below, which would be answered by the expert speaker at the end of the session. And if you have any technical related issues, please post it up in the chat box so that the host can check if anything can be done. Over to you, Shyam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Shyam.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Pawan.
Sure.
So, good evening, everybody. One and all present here today. Thanks for the introduction, Pawan, and I'll just switch to my video if I want to put in the thumbnail video. Actually, all right, I'll just get started. Okay. Good evening, everybody. So, welcome to the Being a Detective session. Are you watching closely today? Thank you for the introduction, Pawan. And so, what are we going to talk about today? So everybody knows that cyber forensics, cyber security is the most hottest thing in the market today. Everybody talks about it. Everybody talks about cyber attacks, cyber crimes, and whatnot, right? So there's a profession that's actually that involves in decoding cyber attacks and a lot of these things. So we're going to talk about what are the cyber attacks today and how safe are we in this digital world. And we'd also put an end to all these buzzwords that you've been talking about always, saying like malware, cyber attacks, cybercrime, phishing. Let's get to know more about these things, like how this actually works, first of all. And we've never spared a thought for things like, okay, I know cybercrime is happening. Who's hosting these things? Where does this get hosted? How is this made? How it reaches the audience and all those things, which we'll speak. But in the end, we'll give a touch to the profession to say what exactly I do. For example, if I get a cyber case, like if I get a cyber case, what exactly I would probably do is what we would probably discuss in the whole session. But just quickly before that, I'm going to close a couple of things so that it doesn't create any further noise. Awesome. Okay, I think we're good. Let's get started. Perfect. Okay. So I always tell this in all my talks. Don't worry about your basics or anything. It's for everybody. Everybody will get it. I'll try to keep it very, very simple. We'll try to keep it super simple, but we'll try to convey the most complex things in a very simple manner. Okay. So that's what my whole aim is all about. Okay, so Pawan gave me a wonderful introduction. Thank you for that. So I head the Threat Research Group, Asia Pacific for CISCO. I'm a malware analyst and cybersecurity lead for CISCO's umbrella product. We decode cyber attacks. We work with several governments. I work with the Indian government. I work closely with Mr. Chandrababu Naidu and the Karnataka government. I work with the Indian government. I'm also part of Cyber Surakshat, India's cybersecurity program. and lots more. So I do a bunch of these things and love teaching also. I teach at Stanford University, Advanced Attacks and Defenses program. I'm a big, the superhero fan, so like a Batman and Marvel fan. So what you see in the picture is the real Iron Man vault. So I traveled all the way from India to the US to see that. So I'm a big crazy fan of that. All right, so let's cut the chase and then we get into the real scenario. So digital world is what we all technically live in. I usually call this as a mirage. What is a mirage? I mean, there's something, but it's not there, right? I mean, it's more of like a magic, I would usually say, or like a magic that it's hard to believe, but you can still believe. So what's this magic all about? So digital, we all live in this digital world, right? Smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, internet, computer, and everything is digital today. The way we shop online or Amazon or like Flipkart, you order food through Swiggy, Zomato, and even your big basket delivers groceries, grocers. Everything has become online today, right? So, and online plays a very vital role. All of these e-commerce sites and everything plays a vital role. Now, what's the most fascinating thing in this? I mean, if you observe, there's only one common thing. The mode of use is digital, right? You connect to the internet. You cannot be without Wi-Fi. Everything is moved to the cloud today, right? We used to type Word documents earlier on our computers. Today we put it on the cloud. We store it in Office 365 on cloud today. So everything is internet. So cloud is nothing but someone else's computer. Instead of storing in your computer, you're storing it in someone else's computer. That's actually cloud. Now what forms the common factor of all these things? The most common thing is data. Okay, so even when you order something online, be it food, I mean, be it groceries, be it shopping, you do anything, right? It's data, because you buy something you buy a product, the product description is data. Your username, you are a data, and the credit card info that you use is a data. Take a phone, for example, picture that you store is a data. The call that you make, end of the day, it's data. There's some meaningful information about it. So that information has got a lot of value. Okay, people often say these things, right? So what? I lost a computer, or I lost a phone, or my computer got compromised or hacked. So what? Well, the so what is not the right word. I mean, every device today that's connected to the internet is really, really important, and it's scary if you see from the other side what happens, what can happen when a computer gets compromised. Take, for example, this is a definition. Okay, threat landscape is used in cybersecurity terminology. It's a cybersecurity terminology. Threat landscape. Okay, if I were to explain threat landscape, I would probably rewind back to the 80s and the 70s. I grew up in the 80s, so like I was born in the 80s, and then what would be the maximum possible assets or entities or like valuables in a house, right? It could be probably a wardrobe, a bunch of jewels, some cash, a television, which was pretty rare back then. A telephone was also rare, but a radio, a radio or a transistor. If you take a house and exclude the vessels, okay, so if you take a house, that would be the most important entities in a house, and the percentage of that getting stolen is pretty less. So security, if you see on the house on the whole, was probably somebody, people used to take turns during the week to guard a street, or the only people who come to your house was probably your relatives or friends or neighbors, maximum, right? So you know who's coming, who's going out, and you know to guard your assets. Okay, so that is your threat landscape. Where you live, what you have is the landscape, because you know what are the risks involved. If you take the threat landscape from the 80s, the risks involved is probably robbery, where you would lose your money or jewels. That's all it is, right? Now take the current threat landscape. In a house, you have a computer, you have a smartphone, you have a smart TV, smart fridge, a Wi-Fi, tons of devices connected to the Wi-Fi, smart home, a smart doorbell, CCTV cameras, so many things, right? And imagine the number of people who come into your house are more. A courier boy, Amazon delivery guy, Flipkart delivery guy, census, advertisement, marketing, after sales service. I just can keep on going, right? So then the risk involved in today's world, right, is more. That is because the more the entities and the more the number of people or devices that form our threat landscape is more. So the risk is involved more today. So that's what's called as a threat landscape. What you see in front of my screen right now that I'm displaying is just a small example of what are the transactions or the risks involved in a computer, which is part of the threat landscape. You see the computer there, right? What do I use the computer for? I use the computer to surf internet for emails, shop online using credit cards, download free games, watch pirated movies, torrents, tamilrockers.com. I download movies. I chat with unknown people at times, and I have my scanned copies of passport, Aadhaar card. My mobile phone is connected. My private pictures are there. My normal pictures are there. What happens if one computer gets compromised or one device gets stolen? Your whole privacy, your life is at stake. This is what your today's threat landscape comprises of. Now, the landscape begins with the question again saying, what can be targeted? Email can be a target. You will be targeted with an email. You can be targeted with an illegitimate software, which we'll all be discussing. So that's how our talk is going to be paced. So a simple email, when you click on something, it can steal something from your computer. And for example, you're downloading a software which says free document to PDF converter, but it's doing something else which it's not supposed to do, and so on. So this is your threat landscape in a nutshell. I hope that was a little clear. Okay. So I spoke about what's getting stolen or hacked already. So what are these attacks? So I will put this point very, very clear. Okay. People talk about cyber attacks, and nobody breaks it down to the simple picture here. Okay. There's nothing complex. There's no rocket science behind a cyber attack. I think everybody in the call is from a computer science background, or they know at least a bit of programming, right? So I kind of burst the bubble when I speak in international conferences to people saying, what's a cyber attack? What's a malware? So I kind of tell this to them. Any cyber attack that's happening on the computer, right? I mean, a phishing or a malware or a trojan is nothing but a small piece of program. Okay. I still break it down further. A program is nothing but, if you probably go by a 2-mark engineering definition, is a set of instructions that's compiled and run. Let's not go there. Let's break it into further simple parts. What's a program? I always think from a layman perspective, right? A layman perspective. What is a program? If you give input to a program, it spits out an output. That's the bottom line. Okay. Now, any cyber attack or any phishing or any attack that you see, like malware or a trojan or spam or a virus, is nothing but a program that takes an input and that gives you an output. Okay. So what's the whole point here? I mean, how can a program run? So a program, any programming language, can run only with a human intervention. Let's take a Python example. If I have to run a Python program, I have to type Python space program name. So you cannot say that program can run, hey, run for me, it will not run, right? I mean, you're still not there. But any program has to run. That means a human intervention is required. That is what a cyber attack or a malware or a trojan is all about. All it needs a human intervention to activate. Let's take an example. I have a program. I'll still push it as a program. because I don't want to get into the terms. We'll get into the terms later. I have a program that wants to steal pictures from your computer. Okay. So probably I asked all the people in the panel today who are listening to me saying that, hi, can you run this program? I want to steal all your pictures. Nobody would opt for it, right? Why would you opt for it, right? But what if I establish a trust with you and talk you through this and make you click on it? So I want to make you run the program. How do I probably do it? Probably Pawan will not do it, but still, what if Pawan sends a feedback form to all of you about today's talk, and you all know Pawan because you signed up for the webinar today? And what if I put the small program inside the feedback form? So you will all open it. When you open it, that means you are executing the program. This is how attacks are disguised. So the basic form of every attack that we would probably talk about is email. Okay. So email, why I put Corona is just not for the theme. There's a reason behind it. I'll talk about it. So the most common thing is phishing, because everybody uses email. Every transaction that you make in the internet gets you an email. You subscribe to newsletters. Your Amazon delivery status comes in email. So email is the most convincing form, right? Everybody has an email account. If I send you an email account, and you are probably done, right? But before that, okay, I want to explain the most. Now you've got the flavor of what a cyber attack, how a malware program works. I'll introduce you to the most common and the nasty cyber attacks that exist today. Okay. Well, this is called, if you watch the Avengers, it's the Infinity Stones of the cyber world. If you've not watched Avengers also, it's fine. So these are the most 6 deadly attacks that exist in our internet world today. Phishing, ransomware, scareware, trojan, CNC, and bulletproof. I'll explain that. I told you phishing, right? Phishing is just tricking you to do something. Like I send you an email and I say, hey, your Citibank account expired. Click here to reset your password. That is phishing. Okay. So the next thing probably I tell you is, I send you an email and I say, download this program to clean up your computer's cache and speed up your memory. When you do that, all your files in your computer get encrypted. That's ransomware. I have to pay money back to the attacker to get my files. And what's a scareware? You would have seen it most of the times, right? When you play free games or watch free movies, suddenly you'll get a pop-up in the browser that says your computer is infected with virus. Click here to clean it. So that's one way of doing it. And what's a Trojan? Trojan is nothing but, Trojan is always bound with illegitimate software. A perfect example for Trojan could be a CC cleaner, which had a Trojan. You can Google about it, or a PDF, a document to PDF reader, converter, or a simple thing. If I would probably put it to the college students, you download free software in the internet, right? Where you download cracked versions of Photoshop, cracked versions or patched versions of Microsoft Office. Those contain Trojans. We'll talk about it soon. And command and control is, if you see phishing, ransomware, scareware, Trojan, they all steal data. They all take information from your computer, pictures, passwords. They have to give it to someone, right? That is the command and control, the attacker's server. So you have to give it back to someone. So that's how. And bulletproof hosting is, all of this you can host it somewhere for free, for $5 or 5,000 rupees. Nobody bothers. These are the most deadly 6 attacks in today's cyber world. And I usually say this wherever I go, all of the 6 things should never come together, because we usually call it a term called fire sale. Okay. If all of these things come together, it can take down a country. Basically, it can bring a country down to its knees, to poverty, to its knees, to be honest. I'm sorry. Where the traffic signals would be taken down, nuclear power plants could be impacted, Electricity supply could be cut, water supply could be cut, there would be severe wars between people, industries would be hit, and it will bring a nation to its knees. So never all of these things should happen at the same time. It's actually called as fire sale. If all of these things come together, it's a word called fire sale, which would we pray would never happen, should never happen. Awesome. So I hope it was interesting so far. I've just touched upon the basics to get you rolling to the whole picture. Okay. So now why did I speak about this? Put this Corona picture here. Corona is the most trending topic today. So usually cyber criminals always look for Twitters to see hashtags of the most common most common trending patterns. What are the most common patterns? Today, the most trending pattern is COVID. Do we have a vaccine for not? Everybody watches COVID stats every day, who's infected, who's not infected, how many people died, and so on. Now, attackers usually make use of two important things, okay? If I want to get into someone's computer, or if I want you to make you click on a malware, or or click on a phishing link, I need to play with your human mind, okay? Because I don't not need a computer or you in front of the computer to do some rocket science or have the best tools in the business to do it. So I always believe in this. Me hacking into someone's computer with all the tools and all is a secondary thing. But what's the most primary thing here? The most primary thing here is a human mind, because human beings are usually greedy, selfish, anxiety, excited, curious, okay, inquisitive nature of humans. Now, if we live in a world sometimes where we say if you have something for free, it gets forwarded like massively. You'd have seen the WhatsApp forwards, right? Send this to 20 people, you get an Amazon gift card. Send this to 20 people, you can see the rainbow wheel in your WhatsApp. It doesn't make sense, right? Send this to 20 people or we'll get bad luck. This is because of three things: fear, curiosity, if you'll see something or not. And the next thing is panicking. If I say your password is hacked, you will panic. If your phone is lost, you panic. So all these emotions are very, very important in a cyber attack. So if I send a phishing mail, so today's phishing revolves around COVID, saying that WHO has sent you an email saying that click here to review the guidelines from WHO, and it's a Word document because it looks cool or it looks scary. And what did I tell you? You need to run it or click on it to activate the program, right? A program can be run only when you run it. And then when you open, this is the problem. The dark cat is out of the box right now. Now, how convincing are these things today? So this is the latest Corona virus phishing that came in, saying that a few coronavirus prevention vaccine is secretly developed. Open here to see what is actually happening. Now, I told you that program, right? I mean, this is more deep in depth if we go, but we're not going to go. I told you, right? Everything is a piece of program, right? A piece of code. A document usually can hold a piece of code. That is when a Microsoft document can contain macros. Macros is just a set of programming instructions. When you open a macro, you'll see the formula, Excel see the formula coming up, pie chart, charts automatically coming up, right? That's a macro. Basically, when you open a document, it can do a bunch of stuff. So what if I put the piece of malicious code or the bad code inside a Word document and I make you open? You're done. Because you're curious to know if the vaccine's in or not. And when you open it, you open it. So that's the whole thing. There is a rise in a domain registration. Okay. Now, what's a domain? Domain is, everybody knows domain, right? Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, MakeMyTrip.com. All these are domain names, right? So you have to purchase a domain name usually. And if you see in this COVID-19 phase, we're seeing a lot of domain names, the name of COVID-19, Wuhan, India, Delhi, Bombay. I have a list of domains that we researched and worked on. You can Google about my work, see my blog post on this COVID phishing. COVID cyber attacks. So we blocked tons and tons of these things in the internet. And what you see is clinics, lab tests. We are increasingly seeing emails being sent to people saying that the self-test kit is available. Click here to purchase your self-test kit, and it was actually even scamming people with their credit cards. And then there was like helpline saying contact your nearest helpline, and then they had to get some people's personal identification number or Aadhaar number kind of stuff also. Now, this is the new surge because COVID is a matter of fear, anxiety, curiosity, and all those things, right? So this is the last example that I go in, a live example of a cyber attack, which talks about curiosity, anxious, and panic. Apparently, I was speaking in Spain last year, I guess, in a conference. One of my colleagues actually lost his phone. So when he lost his phone, he's from the US, so you can probably get an eSIM very fast if you're in the US. He got a message the next day saying that your phone was lost in such and such a place, and it was found exactly at this time. And he had a link. It was like find my iPhone kind of a thing. But when we opened it, it's actually not the real iPhone link, it's a phishing link. Later, it was discovered phones stolen in Europe or in the European countries. There is a gang that sells the phone, the other gang that sells the data. So these are the true things I actually was just talking about. This is a classic phishing case, okay? Perfect. So how Trojan basically enters your computer is what we were talking about. Like we wanted to tell you, right? Many people, so we spoke about phishing. Phishing is just about clicking on a link. But how does a Trojan? A Trojan is nothing but that steals your passwords, pictures, and anything from your computer, okay? How does it enter your computer? Many people are asking this question, like, how does it enter my computer? I have antivirus. Why antivirus is not detecting it? So those days, if you observe, even if you put your pen drive, sometimes it used to find out there's an antivirus running and it used to stop saying there is an auto-run malware running, right? But imagine this thing, right? I mean, you should understand the fact that technology is improving and the resource availability for each of us to read in the internet is massive. And that's the same with the cyber criminal also, right? Cyber criminals also have all the resources in the world today to test out their attacks, to make sure that their attack is stealthy. Stealthy is something like you cannot detect it. Now, how the world works today is a Trojan is usually binded with a legitimate software, okay? Now, what's a legitimate software? A Vimo player, a VLC player, or an MX player, a MP3 cutter, MP3 joiner, document to PDF converter, comic book reader can also all be legitimate softwares, okay? Now, that's what I told you, right? But when you download all these things for free in the internet, okay, your VPN, many people also use these free VPN to avoid getting caught from the government for various reasons, right? That's the major problem today. Always believe one thing. When someone gives you something for free, it comes with a price. No good-hearted in this world today, right? Why would someone give a technology free for you? Oh, there's no purpose for it, right? Now, these VPN softwares that are getting downloaded and you use it, right? They are all like legitimate softwares. A Trojan is a piece of code that is destined or that is made to steal information from your computer on a periodic basis. Like every 2 hours, it will send the files to the attacker. But you can ask me this question. I have an antivirus software. How does it bypass all these things? So basically, the Trojan is a very small piece of code that sits on these legitimate softwares. They are binded with these good software. So sometimes there's a concept called as obfuscation. It's gibberish. Even if you scan it, you cannot see it. Later, when the program runs, it unpacks itself. Something like I have 15 parcels that has to be delivered in an apartment. It is sent by the usual person, okay? So you never suspect them. 14 parcels are good, but 15th looks is the bad one. So it gets passed for sure, right? And since it's in midst of the good parcels, this also escapes. So that's how it usually happens. It's binded with a legitimate code, legitimate software, so it escapes your antivirus engine most of the times. Now, what happens is when you start watching movies through these players, download subtitle files, or use document to PDF, it slowly starts to capture your keystroke, pictures, and sends it out to an attacker. So what is the bottom line? You are installing something, so you activated it. So the Trojan has full power to, make use of the administrative privileges of a computer because it came in with the legitimate software. Now, there's another question that actually arises, a very important point. Okay, it's all fancy when you say that, okay, a Trojan came into my computer, a bad software came inside my computer. But what did that piece of code do to get in? What did it actually do? This explains the concept of exploit and vulnerability, okay? Let's put in a very simple example, okay? Like a super simple example, I'd probably put it. Exploit and vulnerability. So someone who plays cards, right? I say example, there's a person who loves gambling, okay? You can make the person do anything by asking him to gamble. So if you invite him to gambling, he would listen to you or he would do anything for you. These are gambling addicts we are talking about, right? Now, what's the exploit and the vulnerability in this case? The person is actually vulnerable to gambling, okay? The person's weakness or vulnerability is gambling. And how did you exploit that person? You exploited the person by inviting him for a game of cards. So this is actually called as an exploit and a vulnerability. The same thing exists in the software industry also, or the same thing exists in our internet world. Every software that we have has a vulnerability. Your software is vulnerable to something. Very simple example. We're doing a Zoom call, right? We're doing a Zoom call. Yes, we are doing a Zoom call. In this Zoom call, the Zoom call's vulnerability problem, just an example, okay? So just don't take it harsh. So the Zoom call's vulnerability, it cannot take more than 200 calls at the same time. You're in a room of 200 people, more than 200 people cannot sit there. Now, how can I exploit Zoom by making 203 people joining a call? Zoom will crash. So I exploited Zoom's vulnerability by getting in 203 people inside a call. Okay, that is why you will always observe softwares getting patches, Windows getting updates. Okay, these are to fix the vulnerability so that nobody exploits it. Okay, the other example is a bank robbery. Okay, what's a bank robbery is, if I was supposed to rob a bank, I go as a customer inside the bank and I look at the CCTV camera, see everything, what's not, for 3 days. I know when is the peak time, when is the non-peak time, and everything, right? How many entrance exits. And I found there's something called as a Godrej lock there. Okay, and I was able to see, I had a chat with the watchman, the security guard, and I was able to see the lock. This is how usually a cyber attack also happens. Okay, so I quickly went and Googled the model number of the lock. Okay, so when I quickly went and Googled the model number of a lock, I was able to figure out something. What was I able to figure out? This particular batch that was made in 2000 had a flaw that you see on the right is a crowbar. If I move the lock in a particular direction and I move the crowbar, I'm able to open the lock. Now, this is the exploit and the vulnerability. Okay, so this is what actually happens in the case of hospitals and ransomwares. Okay, now we'll probably exit from my screen here to quickly show you something. Let's say I go to a hospital, and so like a real cyber attack, how it actually happens. Okay, so I go to a hospital and I bill. Okay, when I bill something, I figured out that the hospital actually runs Windows XP. Shocking, even still in our country, many ATMs run XP. Okay, runs XP. Now I know this is called as a reconnaissance phase. Okay, now I know reconnaissance is nothing but art of gathering information about a target. Now, who's my target? The hospital. Now, I go to the hospital, I pay my bill, I figure out they still run Windows XP. Whenever I ask the receptionist, she gives me all the details about the surgery, about the bill, pending bill, the stock of the, tablets, surgical items and everything. And I had a little chat. You should not go in a P car. So it's a non-P car. When they're tired, they need somebody to talk with, right? And I figure out that she tells us she has access to everything because she's the receptionist, one-touch information for better customer service. Now, as an attacker, I can go back. Now, if I have to exploit the hospital, steal the hospital data, I need a Google saying vulnerabilities. Pardon, my spelling is very bad. In Windows XP. Okay. Now I know if you see, you have a whole bunch of details. Okay. I can see these are the cyber attacks. So let's take a small example. Okay. Now, just a basic thing. I'm just not getting into the deep here because it takes a lot of time. Now, a simple thing. So I find out she has a Windows version, and I see that it's a remote code execution. That is, if I make the person click on something that I send, I can access a computer remotely using a remote desktop service. Okay. My biggest guess is all these computers, like a hospital chains, are always troubleshooted remotely by some service agency, usually. Okay. Like on a contract basis. Now I know that if I craft a small code, which she has to run, I will be able to get the access to her computer. Okay. Now you know that she runs recipe, and how do I probably do it? And just how do I probably do that? Send an email. Send an email saying that, hey, we spoke about it. This is my pending bill. I think the hospital owes me more money. And if they open it, I have a full access to the computer. And then this is how ransomware attacks also happen. So I can encrypt all their files and then I can demand ransom. Unless they don't pay money, I don't give the files back. Now, this is what actually happens, right? I send an email, user opens it, finds a document, opens the document, and the document is going to scan the operating system. It says Windows 7 or 8, and then it talks to the attacker, leverages the flaws, and it encrypts. I really showed you, demonstrate a real ransomware attack. So I worked with the hospital in Spain again. This was like 2 years back. I cannot name the hospital. But this is like a massive case. Okay, a lot of people, a lot of hospitals at a particular month were getting ransomware attacks, and then they invited me for this case since I was there in Spain, and it's just a friendly through the government. I was called, and so I went to the Spain government. Randomly, I met them, and what happened was, the fun fact was, I didn't involve in the case entirely, but they wanted my opinion on the case. Okay. So my opinion on the case was like, they told me that their data is getting stolen, but they gave away most of the data. I said there's something fishy. Can you track the people to see if they're fine or not, is what I told them. But after 3 months, they came back and said that what I said was right. So what actually happened was, all the data that was stolen in the hospital in Spain, countries like Spain, everybody has an insurance. Without insurance, it's very hard for them. The insurance contains details, card details, payment details, policy number, their salary bracket, and so many things. Okay, blood group, and all those things. So they took people below the poverty line and they started convincing them, and it became an organ stealing racket. Simple, computer data that was stolen impacts human lives. So this is how nasty cyber attacks actually are. Okay. Okay. So enough of we spoke about enough of these things where saying that the cyber attack comes in, it comes into your computer, it goes somewhere, stolen computer. The data goes to somebody. Where does it actually go? Now, you should always ask this question. This attacker, does he have so much of servers or computers, storage space to carry out a cyber attack like this? That's where things like this come into picture. This is a popular bazaar. You'll find this in every state or every city, a metropolitan city at least, right? If you come to Bangalore, I live in, okay, let's take Chennai, for example, okay? Ritchie Street. Ritchie Street is the most famous place for computer bazaar. Okay. If you observe, everybody has a visiting card, everybody has a website there. Okay. Now you should ask a question, right? So there are like tons and tons of shops, computer shops that have websites, but you probably go to the website that's attractive. It's not very sober or lagging or like horrible, right? So you want to probably go to a site that looks flashy, looks wow, and all those things. Now, when these computer salespeople, right, these shop owners, what they usually opt for is low cost, easy hosting. They don't want coding, they don't want maintenance, and it's easy for them to promote. So they go to these small, probably some students out of college or sometimes small companies that help them to manage their service. Okay. If you don't know, all these celebrities in the internet who have Instagram, Twitter accounts are not managed by them. There's an agency that manages them. I also worked on one of a very famous actresses' Twitter hack case. I cannot name the actress, but I found out that their password was leaked through the agency. So, okay, so yeah. So these are outsourced to people. Okay, so these are outsourced to a lot of people. Now, when it's outsourced, that's the problem, right? They don't want to spend money. They spend 2,000 rupees on a website. Okay. Now, what is that website they use is WordPress. Okay. Now, usually WordPress comes for free, or it's maximum 1,000 rupees per year. You have to pay 2,000 per year to have a website. I have a website also. So 2,000 a year is no big deal. But what happens? The requirement from someone saying that WordPress site should be flashy, good, and amazing, right? So what these developers do is they go to random sites and copy paste code from there to make it interesting, to make it look fancy, and then one person who actually manages 10 other companies' websites does this. Every WordPress has a dashboard. Okay. If you see, this is a WordPress login page. Okay. You need to give a username and password. And then if you have a site, you can give away your site and other details. Okay. Now what happens is most of them never fail to change the admin password. Okay. Usually the WordPress passwords are either admin password, root, or root password. Okay, because they're not hi-fi people, right? They don't know much. So attackers target either a bunch of themes. If you see themes here, they're copied from the internet sometimes. Thus themes will have a flaw, a vulnerability. So they get into it and they start hosting cyber attacks. So people who visit the website can get infected, and the website is also used for hosting malicious content. Okay. Now, enough of the gyan. So you probably could ask me this question. Okay, you've been yapping for 45 minutes. What exactly do you do? We solve these cyber attacks. So whatever I gave you is just 0.25% of what you see in today's cyber world. So digital forensics as a profession involves these things: malware forensics, network forensics, data forensics, Windows forensics, and a lot of other things. Now, what is forensics? Basically, when a cyber attack usually happens, or if you have a very suspicious file, you have to perform forensics to find out what the attack is. Malware forensics is where you have a file which looks suspicious. I told you it's a trojan or a software, it looks malicious. We try to decode it. There's a lot of process. Network forensics is nothing but incident has happened and you have no evidence for the incident except for the network traffic evidence, which is called as a PCAP. You use a software called Wireshark. So we use that. I'll probably show that. And then data forensics is about the data that's there, evidence that's there on a, and data forensics and Windows forensics are pretty same. Anything that you do on Windows, investigate is Windows forensics. And the data, the rest that you have, which is suspicious, you investigate, okay? So how do we really decode a cyber attack? So this is what actually happens, right? This is the crime scene. Usually we come when the crime actually happens, and then we take inspiration from that and try to prevent the other crimes, which usually happens. So this is a crime scene. Usually crime scene has got a timeline. So you ask evidences saying that what happened? No, sir, we suddenly found somebody dead. That's what happens in a cyber investigation also. We'll ask what happened. So suddenly my computer started behaving weird. I don't know which employee clicked what, but all our data is lost. Then we go look for evidence. Okay. Usually there you'll see a very unique bunch of strings somewhere left inside the computer. That's actually called as a mutex. That's a stamp of the attacker to make sure that he does not reinfect the computer again. Okay. So we will look for that, and then we'll start finding out what is the pattern of the number, how did it actually came in. Then we go ask employees. Say, for example, in the same case that I told you about the hospital, I would probably investigate the receptionist. I'll ask the receptionist saying, hi, what did you do? She said, I don't know, something happened. Then I'll probably ask her, what exactly did you do? She say, she would probably say that I clicked on an email and that email started doing something bad. So this logs, every computer has logs, every server has logs. So it's like a CCTV camera. For me, logs is CCTV camera. Okay. So if I look at the logs, this is a sample log. This actually happened in one of our experiments. We found out if you see something called as timestamp, it's like a CCTV. You will know who came in, what time they logged into your computer, what's the root password, what they typed, and I figured out that they use something called as a root password. Then I told you, right? Somebody had left a computer unattended for a long time with the default password called root and admin. So this actually got hacked. So the most important, probably I could probably show something to you guys, like a ton of machines that I run at the same time. So awesome. So let me see if I can pull up. Okay, let me pull this up for you. Okay, if you guys can see my screen. This is a computer that I have. This is a dedicated computer to do forensics analysis. Okay, you can Google about it. It's called as a Remnux. It's called as a sandbox. A sandbox is nothing but when you get a suspicious sample or a file, you detonate that file here. You do a research on this file, and then you probably see. So I'm going by real case history here. Can you see this file called 2017? Yeah. Now what actually happened was we went to an organization, and then they said that they do not have any evidence of the cyber attack, but they have one evidence. Their employees are not saying that what they clicked. They're scared to say that they clicked on something, and they told me only one thing. They said, sir, we have a packet capture. That is, whatever is served in the internet can be captured by tapping into your Wi-Fi router or your Ethernet cable. So here they had tapped everybody's traffic through the Wi-Fi router, and they saved it as a PCAP file. Okay, you can use a software called Wireshark to run it. Okay, now the whole process of investigation heavily, I'm going to do a live investigation for you. So the whole process actually involves a lot of Googling. Very simple trick. You never think complex in a cyber attack. You have to think extremely simple. Okay. Now, the moment I usually look into it, I see something called as a domain name. You see something called as titanmachinery.com.au. So I assume in my mind somebody actually accessed this site, and then I see something called as get. Okay. In software terms, if you know, right, HTTP as get, put, and post. Okay. Get means you're getting a resource. So in my mind, I fixed my timeline saying that, okay, somebody clicked on a domain and somebody has downloaded something. Okay. But what is this NBIYURE3? Okay. Usually in cyber attacks, a cyber attack keeps changing every 2 months or 1 month in a particular geographical location. For example, Bulgaria can have a type of cyber attack which is identified by a unique string. India has a unique string, so it keeps randomly changing. But when I see that NBIYURE3/, I think it's a URL. It's from a domain name. Somebody downloaded something, got infected. But NBIYURE3. Let me Google for it. So I'm quickly gonna go back to Google and see NBY. There you go. Okay, then I figured out that this is a ransomware. Okay, do you see a domain name saying hero with got top NBYU RE3? Then I figured out that there's an NBIU REU RE3. There's another domain that says NBYU RE3. So we know that somebody clicked on a domain and that domain had a pattern NBYU RE3. Now, what are these domains? Whatever you see here, right? These are the same example I explained you from that bazaar example with the computer shops that host free sites that get compromised. Looks like some of the free site was compromised here. But what are we seeing here? What are we seeing here interesting again here is, sorry. So do you see there's something called titanmachinery.com.au? I want to know if this was the domain that the person accessed. So let's go and confirm that, okay? So I'm sorry, too many shuffles I do. Titan, okay. Now, this looks like a construction equipment dealer. So our guess is 100% correct. I told you, right? These small computer space, sales, spare parts people, industry people, all of these people only get infected because they would have outsourced their site design. Now, in order to verify this, you can probably use a tool in the internet called virustotal.com. Okay. Now, what's a virustotal.com? VirusTotal, if you give a file or a domain name to it, it'll give you a verdict saying if the site or domain is good or bad. There is a collection of 64 antivirus vendors there. So if you say that only 2 people are basically telling the site is bad, but I'm not believing it. There are like 64 vendors who will say if it's clean or not. Now, but I'm going to do something to confirm. What if the NBYU RE3 pattern is there in this site also? If I scroll down, you can see the list of URLs it's hosted. And you see NBYU RE3, and I clicked on it, looks like this is a malware. So the NBYU RE3 was dropped by titanmachinery.com. And when I go back to the slide, I can confirm that this NBYU RE3, when I go to the traffic, I'm sorry, when I go to the traffic, I can actually confirm that somebody clicked on this link, it downloaded a file, and they opened the file by mistake, which is how the whole hospital got encrypted. So no evidence, I just had one small clue. I was able to find out what exactly happened. And this is how we investigate. This is like a simple cyber attack that we investigate. So this is a very cool profession. You travel all over the world. We travel all over the world, speak in conferences. But the pressure involved in decoding a cyber attack, it's a lot of people's life and data and privacy at stake. So it's a pressure job also, but it's a real cool job. But no matter what you do, right? I mean, but no matter how much crimes you solve, the attackers keep coming back again and again. So it's a matter of cat and mouse game, and it's a very interesting profession. So I encourage people to take up this profession and fight this cyber war that we are fighting. So that's all I have. So thank you so much for your opportunity and listening to me very patiently. I hope it was useful and not boring, to be honest. So I'm up for questions, guys. So
I'll put you forth some questions, Shyam.
oh, awesome. Sure.
One we have from Manish Kumar. What is command and control?
Okay,
CMC.
Okay, so command and control is nothing but if you watched all these English movies, alien movies and all, right? Or even this Tamil cinema that you watch, right? The main villain never goes to fight. The main villain will tell the other villains to go hit, right? So the command comes from the top. So he will have a server which will pass instructions to that file saying, do this, do that, steal this for me, and all those things. So that's called as a command and control. The logic is when you click on a link, and once you click on a link and start running, when the file starts running, right, the file will contact back to the attacker saying that, hey, I'm inside the computer. What should I do? So the attacker will say, look for pictures, look for programmatically, look for pictures, look for passwords, and all those things. So that is a command and control. So the instruction comes from the attacker. That's a command and control server.
We have a question from our EC faculty.
Hmm.
Who deploys the malware to the system and network? And there is also a question, which is also as the second part of the question, which is the best antivirus software?
Okay, very interesting question. So Kaspersky is a good antivirus software. Okay, who deploys the malware is a lot of cyber criminals all over the world, unknown faces where they deploy the malware. So I usually classify cyber criminals of three types. I've met with some people from Russia. I've met a lot of them. Okay, so I categorize them as only three parts. One is cyber criminals are usually very intelligent but are neglected by the world and the society for some reason. Okay, they are like probably not extroverts and introverts, that they don't mingle with the world, so they do something. The second bunch of people who's rejected by family or friends or broken relationships, or fired by a company, all those things these people do. The third is a very shocking thing. They have no other thing to do. They're very bored. Some people are naturally intelligent and gifted. They're bored, so they do this. So they like to see chaos in the world, people panic, and that's why they do these things. How they deploy this is basically, this is what I told you, right? So let's take an attacker is in Chennai. A Chennai attacker keeps roaming around the city. Now he goes to Ritchie Street. He knows all the websites in Ritchie Street are not safe. So he will compromise one by one website, and he will start selling this in the dark web. So dark web is a place where you can sell passwords, Aadhaar number, credit card details, personal pictures, nude pictures, blackmail people. You can do a lot of things. So this guy goes sells saying, I have 200 WordPress accounts with me, and then people buy it. So either he hosts it or sells it to someone where they host malware. This is because if I host a malware in my computer, you can easily take me down. Okay, because you can find my IP address, you go through my ISP. But this is somebody else, right? You don't even know how somebody got into a computer. If you trace down the victim is basically a small shoe shopkeeper who has no idea what his website is. So that is why attackers choose websites like this so they don't get caught.
We have one from an anonymous attendee.
What happens?
Yeah. What happens if I delete the message on its arrival without opening it? Will it still get affected?
Yeah, you're safe, man. It's like, yeah, you're safe. You don't get affected. As I told you, right? You have to have a human intervention. If you do a human intervention, or if you click on something, so that's the most important. Good question. So that's why we're educating people, right? We are educating people not to click it. If that awareness and education is there for all of us, that's what we're trying to do. We will not open it. So you won't get infected if you don't open it.
Good to take a couple of questions.
Yeah, please. I have time. Don't worry.
Next, we have from Julian. Sir, can you please let us know what certifications one must gain knowledge in cybersecurity? Okay,
cybersecurity is a pretty big ocean. Okay, so what's the ocean all about here is you have two different streams here. One is the pen testing and one is forensics. Okay, so pen testing is basically finding flaws in bank server, in defense servers, and patching it so that attackers don't attack it or host malware, is what I told you. For that, you probably basic certification is CEH or OSCP. CEH is a certification, OSCP is another certification that you can do. But for forensics, it's all self-taught. You don't have certification. You have something called a SANS, that I'm a GREM malware certificate. SANS offers you, but it's very expensive. Each certification is $8,000. So that's, but you can read a lot of books. There's a book called Practical Malware Analysis, Art of Penetration Testing. I'm a self-taught person, so I read books and I mingled with people. I learned it all on my own. So that's one way of going doing it.
There's one more question from Ms. Nalini. use of Zoom is not secure. Is it why that you had mentioned that there is a flaw in Zoom?
Oh, Zoom is actually, so the meeting that I'm actually attending from is not my normal computer. It's a computer to do malware. So Zoom is installed in that. So Zoom was accused of stealing user data. So it's been proved, but they say it's not so. But there was a complaint on Zoom that they steal your personal data. If you see, Zoom will actually ask for downloads access when you start your computer. Why? I don't know. So yeah, Zoom has been accused of it in the past. Google Meet is decent. Cisco's WebEx is there. It's also decent. So that's good. You can opt for that instead.
Next, we have how do you start getting into cyber forensics? That's the one part that you've already answered. Is there any specific programming language that one should learn when coming into cyber programming?
So see, cyber security, if you observe, everything happens inside the computer. Okay. So it's computer heavy, computer specific thing, right? So you should have a good background on operating systems and a programming language. Why operating systems? Because I told you, right, a virus runs in a computer or malware runs in a computer, it binds with legitimate software. So anything that runs in your computer is a process, right? So it blends inside a process. You need to identify the good process and the bad process. So you should know what is process, what is threads. Everything writes into the memory, right? When we type a simple hello world program in C, if you type int A, int B, int C, these are local or global variables. If you see in the stack, the local variables, whenever you run the program, the stack has a section of memory saved for the local variables and then the method call, and then the stack is clean later when you print the output. As I told you, the malware is also a piece of program. If I want to investigate what happens inside the stack, what it steals, how it hides in memory, I need to know operating systems in and out. So you need to know paging, demand paging, page swapping, page fault. Basically, the dinosaur books that you read in engineering that you've neglected all your life as operating systems, right? So, so that you have to read it full term and then read a good Python language and understand basics of Windows. If you do all these things and then start reading the nuances of forensics, it will be a lot easy for you. Otherwise, it will be like it's like a man tied with a black cloth left in the dark forest. You have to retrace everything again and go. So yeah, so it's very good if you read the operating system basics.
Next, we have a question from first year student of KCG.
Sure.
If logs are the primary way to perform forensics, what if the malware stays stealth for 90 days and waits for the old logs to delete? How else would you get information about that cyber attack?
Yeah, who's the student who asked this question, man? I can take him as an intern. Very smart question. It's a very smart question. So most of the people who work with me, who report to me today, are being identified from various colleges. They're interns, and then they become full-time cybersecurity professionals. So I identify them by when I see a question like this from them, I suddenly catches my eye. Very good question. So whatever you basically asked is actually called as an advanced persistent threat. Okay, that sits in government servers. If you see, technically, this is called as an APT attack. It usually sits on Indian embassy servers. We had an Indian embassy attack some years back, but I actually worked on a server that was Thailand embassy server. Okay, so Thailand's embassy server was attacked, and whatever you asked exactly happens. So the malware sits in the server for 90 days. It doesn't do anything. It's predominant period of time. It keeps stealing information, important information, and it clears the logs. Okay, so it clears the logs. So once it clears the logs, again it steals, it clears specific logs. So how do we identify it is probably when they do an audit of somebody downloaded something wrong, if they had a patch update or a patch. We use machine learning tricks to do it, to see an anomaly in the network traffic at one point of time. Then we go inspect the memory of the computer to say what was dropped inside the memory, so-called as fileless malware. So it's a big discussion. Whichever student probably asked this question, probably ping me in LinkedIn, we can have a chat on that. So it's a big detail. It's a very good question. So It's very hard for us to find them, but we can find them. Something is impossible. So we need to do forensics inside memory. We need to audit the list of DLLs called by the malware to find out what is a signed and unsigned DLL. If the DLL is unsigned, which is not authorized by Microsoft, and he's the culprit. That's how we find them.
I'll ask him to ping you on LinkedIn also.
Yeah, please. Sure.
We have one question, does Cisco provide any professional certifications on ethical hacking or cybersecurity?
Nope. So Cisco does not provide any professional ethical hacking certifications. It gives you a network cybersecurity course called CCNA Security, CCNA Security, if you really want to get into the network side of things. But if you, there is only a couple of bodies like CEH and SANS that basically teach you the cybersecurity, like authorized bodies to do it. But we do research. Cisco, Cisco can, the other security bodies can actually help you with this situation, not Cisco. I saw a question, can we check or audit and find out anything went wrong? Of course, if the attacker is not very smart, a rookie attacker who has not cleared his logs, you can definitely find out if a third party entry was there inside your computer. I think it's from Nalini George, that question. That's the answer. Yeah, Pawan, any other questions you have?
Yeah. So can you tell me about the role of a cyber kill chain in cybersecurity?
So cyber kill chain is basically the process that basically I told you, right? The kill chain is nothing but a series of events. It's a timeline. Kill chain is the best example that I explained you to rob a bank, right? The cyber kill chain in a bank is basically reconnaissance, which is what I told you, right? You sit outside the bank, opposite the tea shop, sit there for 3 days to see how many people come in, how many people go in, and then the next day you know which is the peak time and non-peak time. Next, you go as a participant inside, like a customer. You know where the entry exists, where is less populated, more populated, cyber crimes, cyber cams, no digicams or no CCTV cams. This is basically reconnaissance. Now, once you find out the reconnaissance, I'm explaining like cyber kill chain here. Now I know you identify the target and the weakness. The weakness is the backdoor. Okay, that's the backdoor. Or you exploit. I told you the exploit, right? Use the Godrej lock and open the Godrej lock. When you open it, that's the exploit. Then you go inside. Then post exploitation. What is post exploitation? Do you want to steal? Don't do this, okay? Do you want to steal gels, or do you want to steal money, or do you want to steal anything? You should steal only what you can carry. Then covering the tracks. So basically, you erase the CCTV recordings, footprints, and everything. All of this is there, right? And then you exit. This is the kill chain basically. Same thing, right? Cyber criminal, you get inside, steal data inside a computer, clear the logs, and then you get out. So this is the kill chain that I explained to you. Pretty simple words.
We have one again from Nalini Joseph. What are the precautions that one should follow while doing a net banking?
Do the net banking from your computer, in your house, from your phone. Do not do net banking in outside Wi-Fi networks or from the free Wi-Fi networks in railway station, not even in college. Do it from your house. Do not trust anybody. Type the password. Don't spell it out anywhere. Type it somewhere where nobody's around. That's the best bet. Make sure that you type the net banking site correctly. HDFC, sometimes it's confusing, right? There can be a fake site saying, what's the spelling of Citibank? CITIBANK. If you type on I by mistake, it will become CITYBANK. Read the URL always. If it's Citibank, HDFC Bank, read it carefully and then key in your. And do not install unwanted stuff in your phone, in Android especially, because you give permission to all your apps, right? You download some third level game, which asks for permission for your contacts and your phones and everything. And then you do net banking, it can actually read your keystrokes. So be careful what you install on your phone also.
We have one question. We know that people use VPNs to hide their IPs. Yep. But do VPN providers track the customer's usage also?
So basically, they won't give it back to you, but you're using VPN to hide your identity. But somebody who gives VPN to you will know all your identity, right? It's a free service sometimes. But the one that actually gives by corporates, like Cisco has a VPN and all those things, that's pretty legitimate. But the node entry, the number of people who is joining can also be tracked. But never use these free VPN online, because VPN is nothing but you're logging into your computer, making connection to a bunch of somebody else's computers that is there somewhere in the cloud, that routes the traffic. So I can probably find out the time origin of traffic from your IP user and all. I can see what you serve also. So be safe about that.
Probably last two questions before we end. As you said, cyber threats are a set of instructions and requires human intervention. Why does Google act as a platform through emails when Google is known to track each and every moment of data?
So that is a sign up that they usually do to provide the best experience for you, right? I mean, you give all Google data because Google gives you suggestions. Google does a lot of machine learning. So it tracks your data, it can see your data, it can provide you valuable suggestions. It helps you to auto compose, it helps you to remember whom it sends. All this needs machine learning data, historic data. This is what you do basically do. So you have a Google Drive, you upload photos, it automatically tags you. Okay. So it tags you automatically, it knows your name is because it's machine learning, right? You give all the data to it. So you sign up for it. We don't read the terms and conditions. We keep pressing yes, 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 and then we use it. But I don't think Gmail does sniff into everybody's email because it's a massive number. Nobody basically does it. But it actually definitely takes a snapshot of our photos because it's able to tag that person the next time when you put it in Google Photos. That at least has that bunch of intelligence. So, yeah.
How do I check if my network is secure, and why can't India produce a good antivirus like Kaspersky? Is there something which is equivalent to that?
So India definitely produces a good antivirus software. Okay, so I mean, there are professionals, there are softwares, but see, this is like terrorism and national defense, right? No matter how much of advanced weaponry you have, they keep infiltrating. And you should also know the fact that so much of information that I know, the same would be applicable to the person on the other end who's a cyber criminal. So he also thinks, right? Let's take a small example, right? So I have an antivirus. So the antivirus gives me a trial for 30 days. The attacker will also get the antivirus and a trial for 30 days. So he will write the malware, test it with the antivirus to see if he's able to bypass it or not. So then we will find the flaw. It's like a cat and mouse game. It evolves. So only 2 to 3% of the attacks that I speak about can bypass. So we are still blocking 97% of the attacks. So that's the harsh truth in today's cyber world. So
now I request our dean, who is also in the session, Dr. Deva Sundari, ma'am, if you could propose a vote of thanks.
Shyam, this is Dr. Deva Sundari, Associate
hello,
Dean.
ma'am.
Hello. It was actually, I'm a professor of electrical and electronics engineering, and
Okay.
in fact, I understood how to be a digital detective.
Oh, thank you.
It was such an informative session.
Thank you.
This Pavan, if you could see the chat window, I was wondering, this Nalini Joseph was asking too many questions about, so curiosity was there. And she has given the reason also. Her credit card got hacked without CVV number from Britain, whereas I am in Chennai. I think that's why she was very actively asking so many questions. So thank you so much, Shyam. And I think it was, we could see many other departments, not only computer science, many other department faculty and students here. And I think everybody would have got a very good idea about this. And thank you so much again. Whenever you get a chance, might be after all the COVID lockdown, we would like to host you in our campus also to, larger audience. To our students, and we'll definitely connect our students with you for the internship also.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. I'm always available in LinkedIn. And thank you for the opportunity, first of all. I know it's not an easy task after lunch at 4 o'clock to sit and listen to someone who's not even in front of you, but digitally in front of you. I'm very happy to see the people, and thanks, Pavan, for reaching out to me. And thank you for the KCG management for having me here, and I'm able to share this with you all. So I enjoyed it thoroughly. I hope everybody liked it. It was not very
Of
way
course,
out of
of
the most
course.
heads. So
Of course, it was. It was. In fact, when I started, I was telling Pavan, what will I understand? But I was able to completely follow each and every slide of yours. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shyam.
thank you.
Thank
You,
you
ma'am.
so
My
much.
pleasure.
Thanks for your
Thanks.
time. Yeah, thank
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 you,
you.
you
Shyam.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.